This is the English version of my credo. The word credo means where I stand. Where do I stand? There is a need for symmetry. Symmetry means equality or equivalency between parts or aspects of something. I believe that a world order deserving the label unipolar is very dangerous. It's much preferable to have a bipolar or a multipolar world. Before going further, let's make abundantly clear what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. Polarity in international relations is any of the various ways in which power is distributed within the international system. Polarity describes the nature of the international system at any given period of time. Moreover, one generally distinguishes three types of system: unipolarity, bipolarity, and multipolarity. For four or more centers of power. The type of system is completely dependent on the distribution of power and influence of states in a region or globally. Okay. The person watching this video, I want you to know that everything I just said there is a quotation. That's why in the written text it's between quote. Second, English is my second language, so don't be too harsh, because after so many years in North America, I still have a foreign accent. Sometimes I joke and I said, Henry Kissinger and I have a foreign accent. Okay, let's continue. Now, it's all Fritz. Everything you're going to hear is from me. To illustrate quickly the importance of having a multipolar world, let's recall the so-called speech of Jérémie. What is Jérémie? Jérémie is a town located in the southern part of Haiti. A friend of mine said the speech was made in another town called Saint-Macary. Well, to me, that's a minor point. The Republic of Haiti shares a Caribbean island with the Dominican Republic. During that famous speech, the then dictator François Duvalier referred to the existence of two poles. Remember, earlier I spoke of polarity, two poles, the US and the USSR. If you want to, a capitalist country and what claimed to be a communist country, the United States and the USSR. Duvalier was threatening to ask the Soviet Union, the USSR, for aid if the United States continued to refuse to help Haiti. This threat was possible because then, at that time, the world was bipolar, and Duvalier, as head of state, was obligated to defend the interests of the Haitian state, regardless of the deep friendship he may have felt for the United States of America. Some people even say that Duvalier was working for the United States government, from the American government. I have no proof of that, no evidence, but I heard that. Now, let me stress the fact that since my childhood, I have always loved the United States. But you may ask, why? Well, there are so many reasons, I can't list them all. But here are a few of them. I love my fellow Americans yearning for ceaselessly improving the democratic system in spite of frequent occasional setback from the reactionaries among us. Okay. I also love the pragmatism of Americans, the conviction that what is true is what works. I equally love America's preference for learning by doing, along with its approach to higher learning. Let me illustrate that. First, one goes to college to have a general exposure to knowledge. Then, and only then, one moves on to graduate school to get more specific training. By the way, please note that there is no official language in this country, in America. As a matter of fact, there was even a time when German could have possibly become the majority language. That is, the idiom mostly spoken within the U.S. territory. But a caution is in order here. What I just said may be a mere urban legend, a fake information. Okay, continue. Moreover, Fritz, I love the huge size of the United States because that size affords much variety to the country. Yes, indeed. Think of the striking differences between states like Alaska, New York, Texas, Alabama, California, Florida, Vermont, etc. Moreover, I love the idea of living in a nation of immigrants, not a nation of a racial tribe. Finally, I have internalized, meaning I have adopted consciously or unconsciously many Americans' sayings because they reflect so well the wisdom of the common folks here. Those sayings are practical, useful, everyday words of wisdom coined often either by hard-working farmers at one time or by coal miners, construction workers, truck drivers, taxi drivers, and even politicians. The value of those sayings, I suppose, comes from the fact that they have stood the test of time. Allow me to provide you with a sample of those wise sayings. 1. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Another one. Talk is cheap. One more. If you can't beat them, join them. A funny one. When money talks, nobody walks. If you can't stand the heat, don't stay in the kitchen. And one more. It's better to keep your mouth shut and be taken for a jackass than to open it and remove all doubt. Of course, I could go on and on and on and on. But surely by now, you listening to me, you got the point that these sayings, those old saws, form a wisdom expressed not through big, intimidating words and long sentences, not using Latin for God's sake. No, not at all. Instead, those sayings, they get right to the point, and they could easily fit in a bumper sticker. You know, those little tags that you could use to ornate your car with. I think of them, those sayings, as intellectual shortcuts. I rely on them as mental crutches whenever I feel too lazy to take time before acting and ponder the pros and cons necessary to make up my mind rationally when I'm making a decision. I am quite aware, however, that for almost every, if not all, proverbs, there is another proverb that contradicts it, that says the opposite. A great scholar interrupted by a phone call. I was saying that there is a great scholar. He accused the discipline of public administration of being nothing more than a collection of proverbs. And the same scholar severely criticized public administration on that basis. But nevertheless, the proverbs are useful. Let's go back to what I was saying before about the sayings. For example, I recall what an American farmer said at a time when the information technology, which is more than computers, but computers is part of that, was just beginning, was in its infancy. The farmer said, "The computer is to my brain what my tractor is to my arms." When I saw that, when I read that, I said, because those people, farmers, are very practical people. You see, they don't BS, all right? And also, listen to the sentence again. The computer is to my brain what my tractor is to my arms. Isn't that beautifully said? Of course it is. Okay, let's continue. Moreover, I also pay attention to what educated folks say. For instance, I watch videos on all kinds of subjects, including mathematics. There is a website called Khan, Khan, Khan Academy. It's also in French, and in German and Spanish, but it's mostly English. KhanAcademy.org. There I read answers about all kinds of subjects, including mathematics. And it's free. It's free. There is another place on the internet. It's a forum called Quora. Quora. Quora is at .com or .org, where you have people, for example, PhDs in mathematics, but also common folks who feel that they have something to say, and they provide answers to questions posed. Sometimes I pose question. I put question. You can put question in English, French, Spanish, and some other languages. Okay, from Quora. No, it's not from Quora. There is a dictum like this one from the great British physicist. His name is Lord Kelvin. He said, "You don't really know something until you've measured it." But be careful. The verb measure, I think you have to take it in a very wide sense. For example, I applied measure to include taking notes. Take notes in writing of important data, facts, information, rumors, sometimes fake news, you have to be careful, that may help me apprehend the reality around me. Now we're getting somewhere else now. There is another side to my story. Before ending this talk, this video, I need to point out to you that I am not so naive as to think that everything in America is perfect. That would be stupid of me to think so. I would have to ignore the dark sides of the socio-political history of the United States. As a matter of fact, what person, half intellectually honest, can afford to ignore the lynches, the hanging and so on, can ignore the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, the John Birch Society, the McCarthy, Senator McCarthy, who saw communism everywhere. There were witch hunts. You have Governor George Wallace, and he had that infamous sentence, "Segregation now," he said. "Segregation always." A statement about apartheid, if you want. Who can forget the burning of black churches, the Southern strategy, which consists of using dog whistles to appeal to anti-black racism? Who can ignore the vicious cartoons depicting President Barack Obama as a monkey etc., etc. You know all those things. You know that I could list so many more sad and regrettable moments of our common past and present history in America. Okay, let's move on. Finally, it would be an incomplete description of my world view, my view of the world, if I did not mention that I struggle intellectually against what some people call binary, 0, 1, 1, 0, yes, no, black, white, good, bad, this kind of thinking, binary thinking. An exaggerated, intellectually unfair caricature of binary thinking is that advertisement I've seen so many times on CNN. That advertisement says DirecTV bad, Spectrum good. I know Spectrum, it used to be Time Warner, now it's Spectrum. DirecTV bad, Spectrum good. Good, bad. Okay. It's kind of unfair because it's just an ad. To compensate, I'll give a fairer, more fair example. I know a couple, husband and wife. Every time we have a discussion, they proudly, with pride in their voice, interrupt me with the same questions. Fritz, they say, answer yes or no. Of course, there are extremely simple questions that deserve this type of answer. For example, is it snowing now? Yes or no? I look through my window and I say yes, or I say no, depending on what I see. Okay, yes or no. But in this regard, I'll never forget how former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger reacted to a journalist who was interviewing him. That journalist insisted that Kissinger gives him a positive or negative answer. You know what Henry Kissinger did? He bluntly refused. He explained to the reporter that his question was too complex to be answered with a simple yes or no. Anyway, as often as I can, I remind myself that reality is too complex to be understood by such simplistic thinking. Binary thinking is simplistic. My favorite intellectual tool is the exact opposite of binary thinking, of yes and no thinking. My favorite tool is called dialectical thinking. For instance, I recognize that a coin, be it a dime or a quarter or a penny, whatever, is neither its head nor its tail. It's both of them. It's not head or tail, it's head and tail at the same time. Okay, to confuse you a bit, because after all, as one of my teachers used to say, if you're not confused, you're not learning. Because if you're learning something new, your brain must be a little messed up for a while until you grasp everything. If you're not confused, you're not learning. Here's a difficult to grasp statement. I got it from a French dictionary. Everything is at the same time itself and its opposite. But if it sounds hard to take, well, in English you have this phrase, it's a blessing in disguise. Okay. You have no problem using that phrase and understanding it. If you use it, it must be because you understand it. It's a blessing in disguise. At the same time, it's a blessing, and at the same time, it hurts. It's a bad thing and a good thing at the same time. Let us remember this.
It's 5 o'clock.
Let us remember this. If you take a couple, husband and wife, I don't care how much they love each other. Soon or later, they're going to have a fight. That fight may be terrible. They even may almost want to kill each other. But there are two possibilities. Let's start with one. Or let's call it scenario. One scenario. The first scenario is that the husband and wife are so angry at each other that they don't sleep in the same room anymore. Maybe one of them goes to the living room and whatever. And a few weeks later, one gets out of the house. And they separate. They may even go so far as divorcing each other. So they are no longer married. They divorce. Okay. In this case, you will say that the shock that they had, husband and wife, is like what we call contradiction. Shock. And what happened? In that particular scenario, a divorce. So, if you want to say thesis, antithesis, the synthesis didn't work. Because the synthesis that works should be better than the previous situation. If it's worse, it didn't work. Another scenario, a second scenario, the husband and wife have that big fight, one wants almost to kill each other, but it's as if they got something off their chest and they feel better and they become closer. The marriage becomes stronger, more loving than before. Aha! A shock, contradiction, thesis, antithesis, fight like that. But the synthesis becomes a better situation than before. It doesn't go like this, it goes like that. So in this case, you will say it's a successful synthesis. Okay, quickly. France, the country of France and the countries of Algeria, they had a shock, terrible shock. Bomb, terrorism, killing, and so on. Okay. Unfortunately, for years after Algeria became independent, the same way that in Haiti, the black slaves killed the French racist colonials. Okay, let's stay to Algeria. For many years, Algeria and France were like enemies. Now they're doing better. But I understand that another country, Tunisia, it didn't go like that. There was a shock, but the scenario was like the second scenario of husband and wife. It became better, they became close. Now, if you are Haitian, for example, you don't have to be Haitian. Anybody who cares about things like that, international question. Ask yourself, the shock, the dialectical shock, clash, the dialectical clash between Haiti and France, did it lead to a successful synthesis or to an aborted synthesis? And compare Haiti to the Dominican Republic, the Dominicans and the Spaniards and so on. Okay? I don't think they had a fight, but okay? Now, let me finish. Let us remember this on the basis of what I just said. The progress of history can go forward, it can go backward. Hopefully, it goes 2 steps forward and sometimes 1 step backward. If you go 2 steps, okay? History with a capital letter is achieved thanks to the dialectical clash of the inevitable contradictions. That is, the internal conflicts of a society, which fortunately sometimes, not always, sometimes the clash generate a successful synthesis, not an aborted synthesis. In other words, a positive qualitative change. History moves therefore forward through the clash, the shock, the killing or whatever of contradiction. Okay, I have finished, and I end up saying, long live the United States of America, although I was born in Haiti, but as they say, my homeland is where I feel welcome, where I feel all right. Thank you very much for your patience. This is over.